Mahatma Gandhi, a Hindu who never less admired the teachings of Jesus, was once asked in an interview, even though you often admire the words of Christ, why is it that you so adamantly reject becoming one of his followers? And Gandhi replied, I love your Christ. It's just that so many of your Christians are so unlike your Christ. And the day I become a Christian is when Christians become Christ-like.
No doubt.
So I tell preachers, if they really want to be like Jesus, then they need to start signing their name up on open mic night at poetry readings. I tell them Jesus was the type of dude that had been selling poetry CDs at spoken word events, and kicking them poems about the dangers and the structures of faith systems, and condemning any form of way that you may bow to him. But priests make you bow to them. Priests track you down at the door if you try to leave out that church without tipping that jar with 10%. But I can't imagine Christ asking you for a single cent. Shit, he didn't even ask you to come get him down off that crucifix. So imagine him asking you to come help him out with the rent or for the car note for his new Benz. Somehow his admirers are destroying his message and use it as one of the most perfectly organized crime systems to entice young boys during dinner time with cups of wine. And somehow Hail Marys or so seem like it's enough for him to say this time. So I know he keeps it on the low. Every time he reappears, he knows the last few times he was here, they either hung him or shot him in the back of the head on a balcony in Memphis. If you truly study his scriptures, you see his teachings more like a Buddhist or a Hindu. He'd probably go strip himself of all the unnecessary possessions to go practice peace with men like Gandhi. Just to go fight his wars by standing firearmless raped in front of the British Army. He ain't never turned his back on no one. While men seem engulfed on killing ourselves off with holy culture, genocides and wars, he still shakes his hands with men who masturbate with holy water. He's always preached, always welcome to the kingdom. He ain't never put the fear of God in them just so they can find God in them. He constantly expressed the God already inside of them just so they wouldn't feel the fear of worship regardless of all their problems. And it's so clear, bishops and priests have been rewriting doctrines for years. So it's highly possible that the same laws you practice for your faith right now will just be irrelevant just as soon as the next decade comes around. But God is constant. So I tell priests, if they really want to be like Jesus, then they need to give up them keys in them churches and use it for shelters and schoolrooms, because they're just taking up room. I keep telling them the last thing God needs is room. The last thing God needs is a place of worship. People, we've been walking all over his earth, and sometimes we act like we don't deserve it. We call Jesus names and crusades and wars like Christ would have really put fatigue on. I tell them Christ would have been inside them burning buildings spitting a poem. Christ would have went to a poetry event just to record his feature and sent Osama bin Laden a videotape of him reciting a poem. Christ would have been going to the Superdome in the middle, handing out water and reciting a poem. Walking right up to the White House front lawn and waiting outside the courthouses just as judges leave to go home, reciting a poem. Going to prisons and telling convicts that maybe next time they can write a poem. But the first thing the men do is ignore exactly what they say the Savior died for. So I tell them, Gandhi had a point when he was once asked, why is it they so adamantly reject becoming a Christian? But what Gandhi should have said is, from all the blood on it, if Jesus Christ were truly born again, he wouldn't even follow his own religion.
Is that on number 999? That's number 9.